Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and today we're going to talk about Jack Evans. Have you ever heard of Jack Evans? Well, you may not know, but he is someone who is very well known in Washington, D.C. So, let's find out some of the background here, because I'll show you how it all ties in to the beginning of the hearing that I talked about yesterday. And so he was discussed at the very beginning, and I wanted to let you know who he is before you hear what Meadows and Jordan have to say about the situation. Anyway, it all kind of centers around this H.R. 51, the House bill that was introduced back on January 3rd of 2019. Okay, folks, this was one of the first bills that, of course, they decided that they were going to introduce as the new Congress, the 116th Congress. And so H.R. 51, you can tell from the number that it was one of the first ones. Well, here's the summary of it. So, it's entitled Washington, D.C. Admission Act. This bill provides for admission into the United States of the state of Washington Douglas Commonwealth, composed of most of the territory of the District of Columbia. The Commonwealth shall be admitted to the Union on an equal footing with the other states. The mayor of the District of Columbia shall issue a proclamation for the first elections to Congress of 2 senators and 1 representative of the Commonwealth. The bill applies current district laws to the Commonwealth and continues pending judicial proceedings. So this is what they want to do, and it will consist of all district territory with specified exclusions for federal buildings and monuments, including the principal federal monuments, the White House, the Capitol Building, the U.S. Supreme Court Building, and the federal executive, legislative, and judicial office buildings located adjacent to the mall and the Capitol Building, and 2 may not impose taxes on federal property except as Congress permits. The bill maintains the district as the seat of the federal government and the federal government's authority over military lands and specified other property. The bill provides for expedited consideration of a joint resolution repealing the 23rd Amendment to the Constitution, which provides for the appointment of electors for president and vice president. So, yeah, they want to make Washington, D.C. another state. And of course, we know that it's like very, very, very left wing. And so obviously it would be in the Democrats' best interest to have 2 more senators and 1 more representative. But check this out. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to these pages. This kind of handy little guide here that you can go to and you can find the text of it. Well, we're going to look at the text of it because I want to show you. The text will always tell you who sponsors it. Now, if you look up here, it says the sponsor was this Eleanor Holmes, or Norton, Eleanor Holmes Norton, I guess is her name. Well, yeah, but when you look down here at the actual text, look at all the people who were the ones that put their name in on this. Look at all of them. All of the Democrats. I don't know if it's actually all of them, because there's a lot of representatives, but, this is a lot of people. It just keeps going. And, of course, you see some of the names that you recognize. Yeah. So, anyway, that's all of them who put their name in on this bill. And here's the legal speak of it, because they have to go through and make it really long and all of these different definitions they have to do. So the summary is always better to read if you can read that. And you can always follow these bills on this page. You can see how far it's gone. Well, this has just been introduced. Remember, this was last January, not this January. Last January is when it was first put in. But that's still in committee and it's still being discussed. So I thought, okay, well, what's been going on with this? And you can go down here again and you can see the actions that are going on. Well, see, it says 4 actions. Okay, let's go see what's been doing, It's had a year. What's been going on? And it said that the House had committee hearings held on 12/19/2019, and it was the House Oversight and Reform Rules Committee. Well, I went to the House Oversight and I looked for it, but I didn't see the hearing. By the way, this looks like it could be kind of interesting to watch. That's going to be Wednesday the 15th at 10 o'clock a.m. So facial recognition technology. And it is part 3. They've had 2 other parts so far. And this was the one that I did the previous video on, the reaching hard to count communities in the 2020 census. And of course, they've had 4 climate change ones and so forth. Anyway, I just thought that was, interesting, and I looked for it. I didn't see the hearing on it, so I'm not real sure. It says that there was a hearing, but I don't know what the hearing was. So, yeah, those actions supposedly happened, but I have not seen them. So, anyway, then I actually found this letter, and this was really what kicked it off, as I found this letter. This is from Jim Jordan, and he is the ranking member of the Committee on Oversight. And then, remember, Elijah Cummings used to be the chairman, and now it's Carolyn Maloney. And so Carolyn Maloney, this is what he wrote to her. Dear Madam Chairwoman, on December 13, 2019, we received copies of invitation letters that you had sent the day before to witnesses that Republicans identified in our request for a minority hearing day in connection with the committee's hearing on H.R. 51, granting statehood to the District of Columbia. You sent these invitations with only a brief staff consultation over our objection as to the selected date of December 19th, and without allowing us to substantively participate in the planning for this hearing. We sadly have become accustomed to a lack of consultation or notice for committee hearings beyond the bare minimum required by House rules. But we are concerned by what appears to be a concerted effort in this instance to minimize serious misconduct in the D.C. government as the committee considers H.R. 51. We originally requested the Minority Day hearing regarding D.C. statehood because Democrats refused to allow us to examine the serious allegations of misconduct levied against D.C. Council member Jack Evans during the committee hearing that occurred on September 19, 2019. Your choice to schedule the minority hearing day sandwiched between 2 other committee events on the last day of this session disappoints us. Your lack of consultation and notice to members and potential witnesses in your planning of the hearing reflects a lack of seriousness as to the committee's oversight of D.C. government and a disregard of minority rights in the House. Okay, so here's the guy, this Jack Evans. Well, there is some pretty suspicious stuff about this guy. Your decision to cut us out of the hearing planning suggests an apparent desire to avoid joining Republicans in asking serious questions about the Washington Metropolitan Area Transport Authority and the D.C. government. On July 16, 2019, we wrote to WMATA Board Chairman Paul Smedberg seeking documents relating to the WMATA Board's investigation into former WMATA Board Chairman and current D.C. Council member Evans. The committee has received over 900 pages of documents in response to our request. These documents suggest that Evans may have used his official capacity to urge a WMATA Office of Inspector General investigation into a vendor that competed with Evans' client. Other documents suggest that Evans sought to provide off-hours access to WMATA facilities to another client who was competitor to WMATA for advertising revenue at the time. Okay, it goes on, and I'm going to just give you an overview of who this guy is, okay? And of course, they tried to get this under Cummings, and Cummings just totally refused to give them a hearing with this guy. They don't want the Republicans talking to him. Well, if you put his name in here, you got to do Jack Evans, Washington, D.C., or you get other weird Jack Evans. So when you put this in, you start to see, let's see, 6 months ago, why D.C. Council member Jack Evans is under several investigations. And this was 5 years ago. He was a mayoral candidate. he didn't make it, I guess. So that's a good thing. But then check this out. 6 months ago, the FBI raids D.C. Council member Jack Evans' home. And it wasn't just that. 10 months ago, he was being investigated for ethics violations. And there's again about the FBI. We'll talk about that in a minute. And 9 months ago, they formally reprimanded him. I mean, this guy has had troubles, all along. He's just been having all these different things. They voted to remove him as chair of finance committee. That was 6 months ago. Well, and then it says he resigns. Well, he resigned from, let me see if I get this. He sent this letter and he resigned from the Metropolitan Area Transport Authority's Board of Directors. That's what he resigned from. And he resigned on, June 20th. And it was effective June 27th. Well, here's where the FBI raided his house, and this is dated June 21st. So, yeah, FBI agents raided Washington, D.C. Councilman Jack Evans' home Friday after he announced Thursday he would be stepping down as chairman of the Metro Board. Yeah, prosecutors did not say what they were searching for, but Evans is currently under investigation over accusations that he abused his position on the D.C. Council as well as the board for Metro for personal gain, WTOP reported. Court documents related to the search will most likely not be released, according to agents. And so, yeah, there was that letter that I just read you, and he's a Democrat, of course. You knew that, right? And this was his letter that he resigned. Like I said, I showed you that one. And, then he got home and guess what? There's the FBI, and they took boxes and boxes out of this guy's house. I mean, several boxes. So the police had caution tape around his house, and a section of the street had been blocked off, and FBI agents exited his home with several boxes, according to this Fox reporter. So, yeah, and then I'm going to include a couple of these videos, but this one right here, I'm going to play just a short little clip from it, and they kind of outline what the issue was with this Jack Evans.
What is Jack Evans accused of in front of the council? We know there's a criminal investigation. Get to that in a minute. But what rules of the council did he break?
In a word, ethics. We have rules of conduct regarding ethics. One has to recuse himself if there is a conflict of interest, which is not just simply that I think you are conflicted. There has to be a direct and predictable financial or benefit of value.
Right.
And so it was that. It was a failure to disclose. It was the fact that, and this is related to the conflict of interest, that he had a consulting business for several years where he had a number of clients, and every one of those clients did business with the district. And so there were issues that came before the council that involves his clients, and he didn't disclose and he didn't recuse himself.
So technically, for the DC Council, his problem was ethics, that he didn't recuse himself, but there's more, okay? There's just more to it than that. Now, that's this guy right here, is the chairman right now, and he came back a second time. This is the same WUSA 9, and he came back, and get this. What happens next to Jack Evans after his resignation? Well, listen to this.
Jack Evans is gone for now, but he could run again, correct? There's no law that says he cannot seek that seat again.
You're correct. And the rumors that he is thinking about running in the special and in the primary.
Yeah, he's told a number of people in a crowded field, I call it the Marion Barry rule, he feels as though he might get back in there. Do you have a problem with that?
Well, I'm doubtful that the voters will send him back. And actually, you mentioned Marion Barry. In 1990, after Marion was arrested by the FBI, he did run for a council seat against Hilda Mason, and he lost. People don't remember that. Mm-hmm. I don't think that the voters are likely to return someone, particularly so close to the date of the scandal.
So let's hope that the voters are smart enough not to put this guy into any position again. But, it's really incredible that the FBI can raid his house and yet, he can still run for office. Oh, what a warped political situation we are in. But that doesn't mean that there's not going to be charges. I mean, the FBI did raid his house. They took a lot of boxes. Chances are there's a criminal investigation going on right now. So I think that's probably going to be part of it. And here's the Washington Times. Finally, the guy ended up resigning. Okay. And technically it was because of the ethics. This is as of January 7th. So he did announce his resignation, but the DC Council was going to vote to kick him out anyway. So it wasn't like, oh, he was being a good guy to do that. No, he was just trying to get out before they technically kicked him out. And so that's what they were going. I mean, they literally were getting ready to vote, and they were all going to pretty much vote. I think they did vote, maybe, and it came out like all of them voted to kick him out. But they said the expulsion hearing was recessed until January 7th when his resignation takes effect. So I guess, I don't know, they're keeping Mr. Evans' staff on council payroll for a couple months until they can secure other employment. Oh, yeah, fun. A sad day for the council and Mr. Evans himself. You think? But here's the thing. They said the Democratic primary race for Mr. Evans' seat already has 6 candidates. Well, one of them is this Jordan Grossman. Well, check out what this guy says. Jack Evans' resignation was long overdue, but it's only the beginning, Mr. Grossman said in a written statement. We need a clean break from Evans and those that kept him in power for years, despite the fact that his corruption was common knowledge. We need a clean break from a DC political culture where following the rules seems to be optional if you have enough money or insider connections, or where public officials seem to believe maintaining access to power is more important than the needs and concerns of their neighbors. Wow. I hope that guy wins. I really do. That's pretty eye-opening for a Democrat to make a statement like that. And I hope that he actually means it. So I wanted to show you this. I mean, this whole thing, they were investigating it. Before the summer recess, the council hired this law firm to investigate Mr. Evans. The law firm's 97-page report said Mr. Evans, over a 5-year period, violated the conflict of interest provision of the Code of Conduct multiple times by using his position on the council to take action that benefited clients of his consulting firm or the law firm where he worked. The report also said he failed to disclose his business relationships and accepted payments of $400,000 from his clients for virtually no work. So, yeah, and it says here that they voted unanimously last month to recommend that he be expelled. See, that was the thing. I thought they did vote, but then it said they tabled it. I don't know. Anyway, so I wanted to share that with you because, like I said, at the beginning of this, Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows especially, he was really getting hot under the collar because they both wanted to bring this Jack Evans in, to subpoena him to come in and testify because they wanted to find out what kind of corruption was going on, especially before they voted on this, especially before they voted on this H.R. 51. Why would you want Washington, D.C. admitted as a state? Of course we don't anyway, right? But why would you want it admitted as a state if it is just so overwhelmingly filled with corrupt people like this? Because he wasn't the only one. He was the 4th one. Now, none of them had actually been expelled, but there were 3 others that resigned because of corruption. I think one of them was indicted. And so, yeah, this was the 4th corrupt person in the very recent past. So it was like, why do we want Washington, D.C. to become a state so it can be a corrupt state? Yeah, I don't think so. No. So I don't know. I don't want it to be a state anyway. I just don't think that's appropriate. I think it needs to be, separate because it is the seat of our government. Anyway, I want to play this clip for you so you can hear these guys, and then I'll come back and, tie it all up in the end.
I thank the chair. Before getting to my opening statement, Madam Chair, when we last met, I brought up the scathing report that Inspector General Horowitz and the Justice Department brought forward last month. Report where even former FBI Director Jim Comey on national television had to say that he was wrong in his defense of the FBI and how they handled the FISA application process in the Trump-Russia investigation. You indicated that you would let us know when we were going to have Mr. Horowitz in front of this committee. I mean, understand what he pointed out, 17 different times.
I thank the gentleman. I thank the gentleman.
We're still waiting for an answer, Madam Chair. On when we're going to have
I'd love to give you an answer.
Committee.
And the purpose of this hearing is on the census, and I appreciate the ranking member's persistence on this issue. Before the Inspector General's report was released to the public, all members of the Oversight Committee had the opportunity to read the report and attend a briefing with the Office of the Inspector General. The Senate Judiciary Committee held a hearing on the Inspector General's report on December 11th. The Senate Committee on Homeland Security followed with its own hearing on December 18th. The Inspector General testified at both of these hearings and answered numerous questions about the report. So I deeply appreciate the ranking member's request, and I wrote him a letter on December 6th. At this point, I don't think another hearing is necessary, and I look forward to working with
Madam Chairman,
on areas where we can work together to improve the lives of our constituents.
So, Madam Chairman, why don't we have a census hearing over in the Senate then, if we're always going to rely on the Senate to have these hearings? I mean, if
the gentleman is not recognized.
Well,
the gentleman is not recognized.
Well, then I have a point of order. Then I have a point of order, and I'll be glad because
recite your point of order.
Rule 11, Clause 2, J, Section 1, actually talks about minority hearings. And one of the issues that we've had, Madam Chairman, is that we believe that this committee needs to be doing their oversight function. And I bring up Jack Evans. We've had Jack Evans resign from the D.C. Council. It was the previous chairman, along with, I would say, the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Conley, and I, that expressed concern about proper oversight. And the minority hearing...
Will the gentleman cite your point of order?
The point of order is under that rule, we have the requirement for a minority hearing of which was not noticed properly and was ambiguous at best and did not get to the heart of the matter because it was not conducted. And if the chairman is going to argue that a minority hearing has happened, I will quote another point of order.
We had a minority day of hearings on the DC.
I would
reclaiming my time.
I would appeal the ruling of the chair.
There is no ruling. There is no ruling.
So is my point of order out of order or not?
You have not stated a point of order.
We have violated the rule by not having a minority hearing that was properly noticed.
We had a minority hearing.
I appeal.
You are out of order.
I appeal the ruling of the chair.
Reclaiming my time.
I appeal the ruling of the chair. I have that right. I promise you I have that right.
For a minority hearing on a minority hearing that we already had on DC statehood?
Has Mr. Evans been here?
Mr. Evans was invited to come along with others that were requested by the minority.
Did I make a motion that we subpoena Jack Evans?
They did not come, and it's not up to me to get them to come. You invited a guest to come to the minority to get them there.
I would make a motion that we subpoena Jack Evans and have him come in. If we want to do proper oversight, I make a motion that we subpoena Jack Evans.
The gentleman has not stated a proper point of order.
Well, the gentleman has stated a proper point of order. Now, whether she wants to rule on it or not, I can assure the parliamentarian I'll be glad to go back and forth with her if she wants to go ahead and put on her mic.
The
I
parliamentarian
promise you
says
that
it's
I've
not
stated a proper point of order.
It's not a proper point of order.
I appeal the ruling of the chair.
There's no ruling. There has not been a ruling.
Okay.
So
the
how-
gentleman has not stated a proper point of order.
All right.
It is the ranking member's time. The ranking member is recognized for his opening statement.
Yield.
It's your time, Mr. Ranking Member.
Well, let me go back to. We got lots of concerns, Madam Chair. Let's just be honest, and not only with the fact that Mr. Evans has stepped down and we've yet to have him in front of this committee, but also, as I raised earlier, the issue of Mr. Horowitz's report, which again, 17 different times the FBI misled the FISA court. Let me just read something. The chair talked about the Senate having hearings, but I thought this committee, which has oversight for every single inspector general in our government, and we're talking now about the Justice Department inspector general, this is what the public order from the FISA court judge, Judge Collier, what she had to say after Mr. Horowitz's report last month. The frequency with which representations made by FBI personnel turned out to be unsupported or contradicted by
the
information.
Gentleman, excuse me, Ranking Member.
No. The time is
you
mine.
are recognized for an opening statement on the census.
The time is mine, man. And
oh my God!
All I know is during your opening statement, the time didn't even run. You told me you were going to give us the same opportunity during our opening statement. Let me go back before I was interrupted and read Judge Collier's statement in her public order after Mr. Horowitz's report. The frequency with which representations made by FBI personnel turned out to be unsupported or contradicted by information in their possession and with which they withheld information detrimental to their case calls into question whether information contained in other FBI applications is reliable. Let's put that in plain English. They lied so much to the FISA court, the judge is saying, how can we trust other representations you have made to this court? That's what she said. After Mr. Horowitz's report, and to date, the chair doesn't even want to have a hearing. The chairman's response was, oh, the Senate had a couple hearings, that's good enough, even though this committee has jurisdiction over every single inspector general in the government. That's why we want Mr. Horowitz here for a hearing. It used to happen when Republicans were in charge. We brought in the inspector generals after a big report. But I guess things are different. Mr. Evans should have been here. Mr. Horowitz should have been here already. Unfortunately, obviously the chairwoman is not going to do that.
So yeah, Mark Meadows was a little hot under the collar. And Jim Jordan was trying to focus in more on the IG report. But in all of these cases, the same thing is happening. The minority rights are being just like trampled by the Democrats. And this is not how our government's supposed to be run. It is not according to House rules. This is not the way the Republicans ran things when they were in charge. They always had respect for the Democrats and allowed them their minority rights, but that's just not happening. And so that was why that letter was given, and they wrote it, and then, that's what they were referring to, that particular letter. And again, this whole HR 51 has been going on for a year now. Yippee-ki-yay. So, yeah, very interesting. This is our government at work, folks. I thought maybe you needed to hear about Jack Evans in case you're not from D.C. or the D.C. area, because I hadn't heard about it until I started digging for this. So I wanted to let you know about that. And, those kinds of things are playing into everything that's going on. There has been a lot of corruption that's been unearthed in the last 3 years. We don't always hear about it. We don't hear about all the raids that are going on. The FBI's been doing a lot of raids. In fact, they did one about maybe 6 months ago, I think, in South Bend. Mayor Pete's place, Pete Buttigieg's city, and they did it at the Housing Authority. And so I'm not sure that Mayor Pete was part of that. I haven't heard anything about them, raiding any of his files, but they did raid the Housing Authority. And there are some people that say that he called for that. He asked for them to look into it because he thought some fishy stuff was going on. But I don't know. I didn't really find any evidence of him calling for the FBI to do that. But then again, that might not be public information either. And I checked out the FBI website and couldn't really find anything on that. But it's very interesting. The FBI has a list of the major things that have been happening, major arrests and things. And just in 2020 so far, wow, it's a big, long list, folks. I couldn't believe it when I started reading it. It's like, wow, no, how'd they get so many in such a short period of time? But I guess, yes, they are doing things. And, they're trying to clean up Washington. It is really happening. But it just takes a long time because there's so much corruption. So don't get discouraged. I wanted to let you know things are happening. FBI raids are happening. And so maybe they're going to get to the bottom of the corruption eventually. It's just going to take a lot of time. So anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.